President Joko Widowo is in an opening speech at the 2021 Trade Ministry National Meeting called for the development of local products to be handled more seriously. Ciputra Development targets marketing sales of 5.87 trillion rupiah for 2021. Good afternoon, viewers. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from the business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Wicky Adrian, this is Market Headlines. Love local product and hate foreign products. That is what President Joko Widowo said to Indonesians for increasing domestic consumption, especially through local small and medium enterprises. President Joko Widowo, in an opening speech at the 2021 Trade Ministry National Meeting, called for the development of local products to be handled more seriously and even went as far to encourage a xenophobic campaign against foreign products. The president believes that a stronger branding treatment must be conducted to entice people to better accept local products rather than foreign ones. Indonesia's population totals 270 million people, can be the most loyal consumers for homemade products. That is a major market base.
Ajakan-ajakan untuk cinta produk-produk kita sendiri, produk-produk Indonesia harus terus digaungkan. Produk dalam negeri, gaungkan. Gaungkan juga benci produk-produk dari luar negeri. Bukan hanya cinta, tapi benci. Cinta barang kita, benci produk dari luar negeri. Sehingga betul-betul masyarakat kita menjadi konsumen yang loyal sekali lagi untuk produk-produk Indonesia.
Three ministers just met to discuss Indonesian tourism. Tourism and Creative Minister, SOE Minister, and Education Minister discussed about priority tourism destinations in Indonesia, and they highlighted about Borobudur Temple.
The first thing discussed by the three ministers was about the development of the Borobudur Temple area. The magnificent Borobudur Temple in Indonesia, the biggest Buddhist shrine in the world, be prepared. A new tourism concept will be applied there. Tourism and Creative Industry Minister Sandiaga Uno said that the Borobudur Temple will be developed to be more well-known worldwide.
Pertama, Borobudur, tadi kita sudah sepakat untuk pariwisata berbasis pelestarian cagar budaya. Nanti akan di-lead untuk zona satunya oleh Mas Menteri Nadiem, dan Mas Erik akan mensupport dengan kegiatan yang akan berdampak kepada ekonomi rakyat, membuka lapangan pekerjaan seluas-luasnya. Kita tadi membahas bagaimana mengangkat dua lokasi pariwisata lainnya, Raja Ampat dan Labuan Bajo, untuk bisa memberikan dampak kepada masyarakat secara luas untuk membangkitkan ekonomi.
On the other hand, Minister of Education and Culture Nadiem Makarim also said that his party is ready to provide educational facilities such as polytechnic and universities so that it become a tourism attraction. Other than that, according to him, the existence of educational facilities will also contribute to human resources needed in the scope of tourism.
Dari sisi pendidikan dan menyediakan berbagai macam fasilitas dan peningkatan fasilitas politeknik maupun universitas dan SMK yang bisa mendukung turisme dan pengembangan ekonomi lokal di daerah-daerah prioritas wisata kita. Dan yang kedua adalah dalam pelestarian cagar budaya sendiri, di mana kita akan di masa pandemi ini sudah berlalu, kita akan menggunakan waktu ini untuk memikirkan lagi strategi bagaimana agar cagar budaya kita statusnya menjadi lebih tinggi lagi di panggung dunia, gitu, sehingga bisa mendukung turisme baik domestik maupun internasional.
This is an effort to boost the tourism sector, which has been dashed by the novel coronavirus pandemic. The UNESCO World Heritage Site, situated in Magelang District, Central Java Province, is now operating under tight health protocols, with the number of visitors restricted to only 1,500 people per day, or 10 up to 15% of its maximum capacity. From Jakarta, Rizka Ayu, IDX Channel.
Weak people's purchasing power still haunt Indonesia following Indonesia's monthly inflation for the past 2 months had declined, while February recorded 0.1% inflation.
Head of Central Bureau of Statistics, Suharyanto, said that the people's purchasing power is still continuing to weaken. Through Statistik Indonesia's data, February only recorded 0.1% inflation.
Pada bulan Februari tahun 2021 terjadi inflasi sebesar 0,10%. Dengan angka ini, maka tingkat inflasi tahun kalender dari Januari ke Februari tahun 2021 adalah sebesar 0,36%, sementara inflasi tahunannya adalah sebesar 1,38%.
In February 2021, there was an inflation of 0.1%. With this figure, the inflation rate for the calendar year from January to February 2021 is only 0.39%, while the annual inflation is 1.38%. Previously reported inflation trends continue to grow since the beginning of the fourth quarter of 2020, which started in September of 2020, whereas Indonesia saw a 0.05% deflation. Only in October 2020, there was a slight inflation of 0.07% and climbed into 0.45% in December last year. However, entering 2021, this value has dwindled and last recorded inflation of 0.28% in January 2021. February's inflation this year was also lower than the same period last year, which recorded at 0.28% in February 2020. From Jakarta, Rahayu Pakmo for IDX Channel.
The collaboration of 3 ministers in encouraging Borobudur to become a cultural heritage tourist destination is warmly welcomed by the Indonesian Tourism Industry Association. The association further said that Borobudur tourism should be coupled with good management.
The government's plan to increase the Borobudur tourism class on the international stage has been welcomed by Indonesian Tourism Industry Association, or GIPI. The General Chairman of GIPI, Didin Junaidi, said that the plan will encourage the people's economy to grow if it can be realized soon. Didin said, so far, the visit to Borobudur is still relatively low, so it needs government booster. Didin suggested that Borobudur should be integrated with Jogja Solo Semarang tour. He thinks that it will provide more attractive and also economic impact will be wider.
Saya yakin bahwa dengan pertemuan ini dapat dibuat suatu kolaborasi yang sangat menguntungkan bagi seluruh stakeholder, baik itu biro perjalanan, UMKM, dan lain-lain. Dan saya mengharap bahwa kedepannya adalah Borobudur itu dengan dibuat manajemen yang cukup rapi atau baik, yang saya menyarankan barangkali destinasi Borobudur itu harus dibuat sebagai one destination, one management.
Didin hopes that the government can immediately realize the plan even in the midst of pandemic, so that the tourism can get up from COVID-19 pandemic as soon as possible. Jakarta, Rizka Ayu, IDX Channel.
Market headlines will be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
Sebenarnya tuh aku memang sudah cinta gitu terhadap dunia kesenian gitu. Hanya saja memang aku tidak menyadarinya bahwa ternyata aku punya potensi di situ. Banyak sekali orang bilang kalau misalkan tidak mencoba ya kita tidak tahu.
Pernah dapat kritikan ataupun ada aja pasti yang nggak suka ya, namanya kita seorang entertainer.
Urusan yang kayak gitu sih aku nggak terlalu mikirin sih. Aku mikirin dulu deh, aku kerja yang bener aja dulu.
Kunci suksesnya apa?
Jangan pernah berhenti untuk belajar dan jangan lupa juga untuk bersenang-senang.
Wall Street kompak menghijau pada akhir perdagangan Jumat lalu di mana S&P 500 mencetak rekor penutupan tertinggi. Kita akan review bagaimana pergerakan indeks nanti begitu pada saat opening market.
Perlu melihat beberapa minggu ke depan itu cenderung turunnya konsisten atau tidak.
Kalau kita lihat ya dari segi global memang akan sangat mempengaruhi, apalagi kemarin dia
Saham MNC Land atau KPIG kembali lagi menjadi jawara, naik hingga 34%. Menteri Kesehatan Budi Gunadi Sadikin menargetkan vaksinasi COVID-19 di
Welcome back. 4 unicorns and decacorns in Southeast Asia, namely Gojek, Grab, Tokopedia, and Traveloka, are rumored to be listing their initial shares or IPO this year. Therefore, retail investors are eagerly awaiting the IPO of these jumbo startups.
4 unicorns and decacorns in Southeast Asia, namely Gojek, Grab, Tokopedia, and Traveloka, are rumored to be listing their initial shares or IPO this year. Therefore, retail investors are eagerly awaiting the IPO of these jumbo startups. Masana Takahashi, founder of the accounting and financial advisory firm Jidobox, said that retail investors know that Indonesia has a large population and a growing economy, which makes them interested in buying Indonesian technology stocks. Meanwhile, institutional investors tend to be less interested in investing in technology companies that have carried out IPO. Masana said that institutional investors will build portfolios to protect the value of risk so that they will choose companies that play an important role in the country's economy. Meanwhile, CEO of Mandiri Capital Indonesia, Edi Danusaputro, said that the IPO is an exit strategy for startups, where the IPO will provide more options for investors to exit or monetize their investments. As for the report, The Future of Fintech in Southeast Asia by Dealroom, Finch Capital, and MDI Ventures in September 2020, the number of fintech startups in Southeast Asia that will pursue a profit-making strategy continues to increase. The total will reach 32 startups in 2023. Profit-making strategies from investors to earn investments by maximizing profits and or minimizing losses. This form of exit strategy includes listing of initial shares on the stock exchange or IPO, mergers and acquisitions. From Jakarta, IDX Channel's coverage team reported.
Yes, stock market players are waiting for the IPO of large-scale startups with unicorn or even decacorn status. However, how have things progressed so far? Have these giant startups expressed their interest in holding an IPO? Let's review it through the next following infographics segment. This is the potential initial public offering or IPO of Indonesian startups. Tokopedia actually appoints Morgan Stanley and Citi as IPO advisors, review IPO options via SPAC or Special Purpose Acquisition Company. Mintam Traveloka planning an IPO in Indonesia and the US, assessing IPO options via SPAC. Meantime, Gojek has not provided any response regarding the potential for an IPO through SPAC. And Bukalapak expressed interest in IPO, but management did not specify the timing for the IPO. Meantime, Ling Aja, November 2020, the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises is pushing for an IPO in the next 1 to 1.5 years. The opportunity for Indonesian unicorns and decacorns to list their initial shares or IPO this year is considered to be bigger. This is because there are a number of factors such as valuations that are too high, new regulations to COVID-19 vaccination. Vice President Investment of MDI Ventures, Aldi Adrian Hartanto, says that the opportunity for a decacorn like Gojek for an IPO is very large. This is even more of a necessity because they are already challenging to raise private capital. From the rumors of these giant startups to conduct IPO, one interesting thing is that the option to conduct an IPO through SPAC or a Special Purpose Acquisition Company, or known as Blank Check Company. It is a shell corporation listed on a stock exchange with the purpose of acquiring a private company, thus making it public without going through the traditional initial public offering process. Tokopedia and Traveloka are startups that are currently conducting studies to conduct an IPO through this SPAC mechanism. Meanwhile, for your information, IPO is one of the exit strategy mechanisms implemented by startups. So how many startups companies have implemented an exit strategy to date? The data is in the next graphic. This is the number of Southeast Asian fintech implements the exit strategy. The number in 2017 to 2019, it keeps on decreasing, but the estimation of the number of Southeast Asian fintech that are implementing the exit strategy from 2020 to 2023, the number predicted to keeps on increasing from 22 South Asian fintech to 32 companies. And regarding investment interests, Masana Takahashi, founder of the accounting and financial advisor firm Jidobox, said that institutional investors tend to be less interested in investing in technology companies that have carried out IPO. Masana said that institutional investors will build portfolios to protect the value of risk. Meantime, CEO of Mandiri Capital Indonesia, Edi Danusaputro, explained that the IPO is an exit strategy for startups, where the IPO will provide more options for investors to exit or monetize their investments. As for the report, The Future of Fintech in Southeast Asia by Dealroom, Finch Capital, and MDI Ventures, in September 2020, the number of fintech startups in Southeast Asia that will pursue a profit-making strategy continues to increase. The total will reach 32 startups in 2023. This form an exit strategy includes listing of initial shares on the stock exchange or IPO, mergers and acquisition. And regarding IPO, how many companies have held IPO on the IDX until 2020? Let's check it to the next graphic. The number of companies held an IPO on the IDX in 2017, it was 35 companies. In 2018 and 2019, the number was the same, 55 companies that already held an IPO. And in 2020, as much as 51 companies held an IPO on the IDX. The Indonesia Stock Exchange has recorded a decline in fundraising activities through IPO throughout 2020, where the total accumulation of IPO value only 5.2 trillion rupiah, with 51 new listed companies. For this achievement, Indonesia ranks 6th in the world under the Shanghai Stock Exchange, which listed 180 IPO, Nasdaq 119, Shenzhen 115, Hong Kong 99 IPO, and Japan 54 IPO. Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs, Erlangga Hartarto, demanded that if in the future the number of issuers and the value of raising funds in the capital market must be boosted. Of the many companies that have carried out IPO on the Indonesia Stock Exchange, some of them also consist of startup companies, even fostered by the IDX. And let's take a look at the IDX-assisted startups in the next graphic. IDX incubator-assisted startups that have held IPO in Indonesia Stock Exchange, we have Passpod, Yellow Integra Datanet Tbk with the stock code Yellow. The IPO date was on October 2018, 29 to be exact. The IPO price was on the level of 376 per share. Meantime, Pigijo or PT Torindo Guide Indonesia Tbk, the stock code of the company was PGJO. The IPO date was on January 8, 2020, and then Cashless Worldwide Indonesia with the stock code Cash. The IPO date was in the 4th May 2020. And the Indonesia Stock Exchange revealed that at least 2 companies are planning to conduct IPO in the first half of 2021. The startups comes from IDX Incubator, which is a special incubation space for small and medium-scale companies to become listed company in the exchange. And hopefully the wait for investors regarding the unicorn startup holding an IPO will soon be answered. And of course, all parties will continue to guard this positive plan. Stay with us because market headlines will be right back after the break.
Tren transisi ke energi baru dan terbarukan tidak membuat industri energi fosil lantas surut? Seperti apa dampaknya terhadap sektor migas?
Turunnya atau rendahnya harga minyak dan gas yang sangat drastis turunnya, adanya pandemi yang membuat terbatasnya pergerakan.
Langkah yang dilakukan apa nih Pak?
Hingga hari ini saya kira Brent hari ini sekitar 55. Ini sesuatu yang positif untuk industri yang itu kira.
We're on the last segment at the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. Earlier today, JCI was open at the level of 6,355.38. Then approaching the closing time of the session, the index was on the level of 6,289.23. Then the index was showing weakening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 6,290.79. In short, JCI went down 1.35%. And next, we are going to see the sectoral movement leading the dynamics of today's trading. We got construction as the leader of the strengthening trend, went up 0.46%, and agriculture went up 0.04%. And next, we got mining as the leader of the weakening trend that went down 2.87%, and finance went down 1.79%. Moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. BBKP went up 1.72% to the level of 590 rupiah per share. Adaro went up 2.95% to the level of 1,220 rupiah per share. Friend went up 3.49%, went up to the level of 89 rupiah per share. BABP went up 34.41% to the level of 125 rupiah per share. And meantime, the top losers for today's trading, we got ANTM went down 6.67% to the level of 2,520 rupiah per share. BBCA went down 4% to the level of 33,600 rupiah per share. BBRI went down 1.86% to the level of 4,760 rupiah per share. And Telkom went down 2.33% to the level of 3,360 rupiah per share. And this is the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Open at the level of 14,871 rupiah, was also showing weakening trend towards US dollar. It was closed at the level of 14,818. In summary, rupiah went down 0.47%. Triggered by the rising property market, Ciputra Development is optimistic this year to target higher pre-sales of 5.87 trillion rupiah for 2021.
The rising property market, Ciputra Development is optimistic this year to target higher pre-sales or marketing sales revenue compared to 2020. According to the independent director of Ciputra Development, Tulus Santoso, the company is targeting pre-sales of 5.87 trillion rupiah for 2021. This target is indeed 6.72% higher than the realization of marketing sales that Ciputra received last year of 5.5 trillion rupiah. The realization of Ciputra marketing sales in 2020, which exceeded the target of 4.7 trillion, is seen as a sign of a recovery in property demand during the pandemic. To boost the property market's performance this year, the government has also provided a number of incentives. Most recently, the government provides incentives in the form of value-added tax, which the government bears as much as 100% of the VAT payable on the delivery of a landed house or apartment with a selling price of at most 2 billion rupiah. From Jakarta, IDX Channel's coverage team reported.
And step aside from market condition as coronavirus pandemic takes big role in current economic situation. And here is an update data about coronavirus globally. And the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. I'm Wicky Adrian. Have a nice evening and stay safe.